All right, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, so I feel like it's a great time to do an updated 2022 in the bag. All right, so as you can see, one of the first updates that I've made is I am now rocking a pound disc golf bag instead of the grip bag that I was using. This bag is amazing. I love how much stuff it holds and all of the different putters you can put in the bag. As I am a big putter thrower, that really helps my part of the game, and you can put so much stuff in the side pockets and it's just put together really well, so it's an easy choice. And speaking of the putters, that's exactly where we're gonna start. So my putting putters are still the Discraft Putterline Focus. I love the Focus because it's a bit narrow of a profile. It's got a tiny bead on it, so not too much in the hand, but it feels great in my hand. They are very straight. They don't fade or turn too much when you're putting, so since I put everything out on a hyzer putt, it just holds that hyzer into the chain so I can kind of manipulate it how I want. Fits my putt really well, and they have been money. So for throwing putters, I have a different variety, but the first throwing putter I have is this Ledgestone Titanium Swirl Focus. It's basically just a nice slow throwing putter. I can kind of manipulate the angle that I throw it on and either get it to just fly straight or get it to turn over. It doesn't typically fade all that hard, but it is very nice and controllable, so this does come out a lot in the woods. So my next throwing putter is the Discraft Luna. I have it in the 2021 Tour Series plastic and the 2022 Tour Series plastic. I feel like these are a great complement to everything else I have in the bag. So essentially right now, the 2021 Tour Series Luna has been in my bag for a little while now. If I throw it out flat, I can get a nice flat flight. Depending on the amount of power I put into it, if I give it a nice little low speed, I can get a flat fading shot. If I put a bit more power into it, I can get a flat turning shot that gives me that nice shot shape. The 2022 Tour Series is essentially the exact same thing, but it has a bit more stability to it. So eventually there might be some overlap between these two. There hasn't been yet, but if there does create overlap, I'll probably drop one for a more overstable Luna. I do have it in Z plastic, which is pretty stable. So if you're looking for an overstable Luna, Z plastic is definitely the way to go. The next putter I throw is the Discraft Zone. As you can see, I've got 4 of them. Love the Zone. It's probably one of my most thrown discs. So I'll start with the least overstable Zone first, and that is this Jawbreaker Zone. It is very straight. It still has the zone stability, but if I hammer on it, I get it to just hold straight and kind of have that nice fade at the end. It is the zone that I approach with the most often because it is in this softer plastic, so when you throw it, it likes to sit where it hits. It doesn't give you those big skip offs, so it's really nice for that, as well as more turnover forehands. With it not having as much stability on the forehand, I can get it to really hold the turnover line. So I use this one a lot. The only thing I don't like about this Jawbreaker plastic is how much it warps. I don't know if you can really see it on camera, but they warp so fast, and I don't really like the way it feels when it's warped, so I don't know if it'll stay in the bag long, but for now it is in the bag. So the next zone I bag is this Z Glow Eric Oakley Infinite Discs Zone. So this zone is actually pretty new to the bag as they just came out with this disc, but I definitely wanted to give it a shot, and so far it's actually turning into one of my go-to throwers. It's pretty straight for a zone, so I imagine with a bit more wear and tear, it'll start to turn a little bit more, which will be really, really nice for a zone. And I just love the way that the Glow Z plastic feels, so you'll see me throwing this one a lot. All right, the next zone I throw is this Crystal Flex Zone from Ledgestone. So this zone is pretty stable, so I like to use this zone a lot for forehands and backhands that I don't need a lot of ground play at. I feel like the Flex plastic gets it a lot less ground play than, let's say, the Z one that I currently have. So I typically use this zone for a bit more control-y shots when I need something that's not too dumpy, but definitely is not super straight. Using this one. And then the last zone I have in the bag is the 4 Claws Zone. So this one has been in the bag for a little while, so it's not as beefy as it used to be, but it is still currently my beefy zone. When I need something that's just not gonna flip up or on a hard flex line that's gonna come out of it, I'm going with this zone almost every single time. It's just very beefy. All right, so for mid-ranges, I do carry 4 mid-ranges. We'll go through them in the order of stability. The least stable one is the Discraft ESP Meteor. This is my control disc. When I need something that's gonna go right no matter what, I am throwing the Meteor. I can vary my grip between fan and power grip on this. If I throw it fan grip, I can get it to turn over a lot slower, and if I throw it power grip, I can really get it to flip over and completely dump. So it's a very fun disc to throw in the woods, and when I need something to go right and I don't trust my forehand, typically leaning on the Meteor. So the next disc in my bag, I've actually minimalized down to 2. I used to carry a lot more, but for right now, 2 is what's working. And that is the Discraft Buzz. So this is the Chris Dickerson crystal one that just came out. So I thought this buzz was actually gonna be a lot more stable with it being in the crystal plastic, but it's actually pretty flippy. So when I need that nice straight flight with maybe a little bit of turn to it, I am leaning on this buzz. It's not super dumpy yet, as it is pretty brand new, but out of the box, it's pretty flippy, so I feel like it's gonna beat into a great flyer. The next buzz in my bag is this Glow Z Haley King buzz. This is actually the disc that's probably been in my bag the longest. This is just my laser beam super straight buzz. I can hammer on this thing as much as I want and it's just gonna go straight. It doesn't dump out too much and it doesn't really turn over. It is my straightest flying disc and I use this one a lot. It's definitely probably my favorite buzz. And then last but not least, I am carrying the Discmania MD4, one of the old runs. It's really hard to find a disc that goes a bit straighter than a zone, but not as straight as a buzz with that nice predictable overstable finish. And so far this disc is actually filling that requirement. It's not too overstable that it only dumps, but it's not straight enough that it goes as straight as a buzz. And it is flying a bit further than I can throw a zone. So right now this disc is just perfect. All right, the next slot are the fairways. I'll start with the 7 and 8 speeds. All right, so the first fairway that I bag is the new Discmania FD and the Italian C-Line plastic. Essentially for me right now, this FD is just a longer buzz. It's very, very controllable, very straight, and it loves to just bomb. So it's a great woods disc, or if I really need to hit a line straight and not worry about something fading or turning over too much, I'm going with this FD. The next disc in my bag is the T-Bird 3. So the first T-Bird 3 I have is the 2022 Tour Series Anthony Barella T-Bird 3. Essentially right now this disc is just a longer FD, even though the FD was a longer buzz. I can throw this thing out flat and get some nice turn out of it, but it will definitely give that hard finish at the end, whereas the FD just kind of wants to go straight. So I'm using this for very controlled like laser beam shots. I lean on this disc a lot, so you will see it a lot. So the next T-Bird 3 I throw is this Halo T-Bird 3. It's got the F2 factory stamp. This is a gift from my friend Tony, who used to bag it, but he doesn't anymore, so he let me throw it. With it being in the Halo plastic, it's got that nice predictable overstability to it. You can throw it out straight and you won't get it to turn over. I can get it to pop up a little bit, but it will always give me that hard finish at the end. So it's a very controllable T-Bird 3 when I need something to hyzer at that speed. The last T-Bird 3 in my bag is this very pretty Metal Flake T-Bird 3. This is another recent addition to the bag. Essentially, it is the overstable T-Bird 3. So if I have like a headwind or I need something that is just gonna go left the entire time, I am ripping on this T-Bird 3, whereas like the Halo one might stand up a bit. This one won't stand up. It's very overstable. So it's a great wind fighter, and when I don't need something as overstable as, let's say, like a Raptor. And speaking of the Raptor, that is the next disc in my bag. I currently bag 4 of them. Well, 3 Raptors, 1 Captain's Raptor. So the first Raptor I have is this ESP Swirly Raptor. I got it at Ledgestone last year. I believe it's just ESP plastic. I don't really know for certain, but this is one of my go-to Raptors. It's actually pretty beat up, so it's pretty flippy for a Raptor. So when I need a Raptor that's just gonna go for a very long way or definitely stand up in its flight to give me that pushing shot, this is the Raptor I'm going with. The next step up in stability would be this Glow Z Raptor I have. It is also actually pretty straight, but it's a bit more overstable than the ESP one is. So essentially when I need a pure hyzer that's not gonna bite too hard but won't stand up, this is the Raptor I'm going with. Or for forehand, when I need something that will stand up and go straight for a little while, whereas the ESP one would probably just dump over at this point and the other Raptors I have would just not turn at all, this is the Raptor that I would go with. The next Raptor in my bag is this Sharingan dyed Raptor. It is just a Z Raptor, but it is board flat, max weight, so it's very overstable for a Raptor. Essentially, when I need a Raptor that will not stand up at all, this is the Raptor I'm going with. Just nice big hyzers on backhand and forehand. I lean on this disc a lot, and the die just makes you want to throw it. So the next Raptor in my bag is the Captain's Raptor. This is essentially a utility disc when I need something that's just gonna pure hyzer bite the entire way, backhand or forehand. This is the disc I'm going with, or like a big nice flex line that it's just gonna come right back out of. I don't use this disc all that much, but the utility of it makes it just too hard not to keep in the bag, so I will pull this out when I need it, but it doesn't see that much throw. All right, so the next discs in my bag are like the hybrids. They're not distance drivers, but they're not really fairways in my opinion. The 10 speeds. So I bag 3, 2 vultures, 1 PD. We'll start with the vultures. So the first vulture in my bag is this Ledgestone TI Swirl vulture. This is my control vulture. It's pretty flippy, so I can throw it out on hyzer and get to stand up and actually get a bit of turn out of it. Or I can throw it flatter on anhyzer to get more of a turnover shot. So this is the vulture I lean on when I don't really want the stability. When I do want the stability, I am leaning on this Z-Line vulture. This is just dead straight. It will turn if I throw it out flat or on anhyzer. If I put it out on hyzer, I'm just gonna get a nice straight shot out of it. So this vulture and the Ledgestone vulture are a nice complement to each other when I need the shot shapes. I'm leaning on these. If there's wind or if I need something to hyzer that's not a distance driver and not as much as a Raptor, I am throwing the new Discmania C-Line PD. So since this PD is new, it is actually pretty overstable, but I have a feeling it's gonna beat in a little bit more and then get a nice, more predictable overstability to it. So essentially when I need a pure hyzer that's not as bitey as a Raptor or as far as a distance driver, I am leaning on this. Currently, it's pretty new to the bag as this did just come out, so I don't have a ton of experience with it yet. But I do love the way this plastic feels, and it's a great feel in the hand, so I think it's gonna be a good complement to the vulture as maybe it's like bigger brother. Oh, and I do have, actually, kind of forgot because it was in the side pocket. I have a Crystal Avenger SS. This is also a utility disc. It is extremely understable. Essentially, any way I throw this disc, it's gonna turn over. The crystal plastic gives it a bit more stability, so for rollers or turnovers where I don't want it to just completely dump over, the crystal plastic allows it to kind of have a little bit of life to it, so it's a bit more controllable in my opinion. I'm not great with throwing rollers, I am learning, but currently I don't throw a lot of rollers, so essentially I only use this disc for big turnover shots when I don't trust a forehand or if I need to get a lot more distance. Like I said, it is a nice utility disc, so it doesn't get used all that. It doesn't get used too much. So the next slot in my bag are the distance drivers. I currently have 5 and they're all the same DD3s. So we'll go in order of stability. So the first DD3 I have is this, I believe it's Eco. Please don't tear me apart in the comments if that's wrong, but Eco Line DD3, this thing is just super flippy. No matter what way I throw this disc, all it wants to do is get up and turn over. So for tailwind shots or big turnovers, this is actually really great. Doesn't like to come back at the end, so this mostly just gets used for any distance drive I need to go right. The next DD3 I bag is my probably most thrown DD3, this orange S-Line DD3 from the Originals line. It's got a little bit of Blizzard plastic in the rim and it is a little lighter. It's not too light, but it's not super heavy. At this point, this disc is pretty understable, so I can throw it out for hyzer flip lines or big turnover shots that it will come back at the end. I lean on this disc a lot for distance. I'm still not great with distance drivers, so something that's a little bit more understable is a little bit better for me. So essentially, if I have a distance shot coming up, I'm throwing this orange DD3. All right, the next DD3s I have are the DD3s that make me a shill for limited releases. The first one is the Cloudbreaker 3. This is actually pretty flippy. So I believe it's the new DD3 mold, but it came out before the current C-Line DD3s. And I think the stability changes depending on color. So I think blue is actually pretty flippy, which is actually the case. So it's not the most consistent disc, so I don't know if I'll keep it in the bag. But for right now, because of the pop top and the understability, I can get this thing to really just bomb. So even though it's not the most consistent for distance, it's really good to have in the bag. So for now, it is in the bag. The next DD3 I have in the bag is my second most thrown DD3, and that is the Cloudbreaker 2. So I think the Cloudbreaker 1, which I actually have one of, is supposed to be like the better thrower, but I actually like throwing the Cloudbreaker 2 the most. It's not flippy, but it's not overstable. It's just nice and straight. So if I throw it out flat, I do get a little turn out of it where it comes back at the end. If I throw it out on hyzer, it will stand up. So it's very workable. And because it was my little brother's first and he gave it to me, shout outs to Brendan, has a nice special place in the bag. So this is one of my main throwers for distance drivers. I'd say this one and the orange one are the ones that I throw the most. And yeah, there's just not as much I can say. It's not super domey, but it's not flat. It's just perfectly profiled. So yeah, Cloudbreaker 2 is definitely one of my favorite distance drivers. And the last distance driver I have in the bag is the Cloudbreaker 1. I don't know which run this is. I bought it off of a guy in the marketplace. I wanted to see how they throw, and this is actually very overstable. So for right now, it's my more overstable thrower. Whenever I have a headwind or I need something that's gonna go left and not stand up at all for a distance driver, this is what I'm leaning on instead of throwing a Force or a PD2. So I don't know if it'll stay in the bag. I might replace it with the new C-Line DD3s depending on how overstable they are. I don't think they're this overstable. I think they'll probably just replace the Cloudbreaker 3 that I have, because I'm hoping they're just a bit more consistent than that disc. So you probably won't see me throw this very often because it is pretty overstable, but it definitely has a use. So yeah, that is my 2022 in the bag. This is probably the most consistent my bag has ever been. The core molds that I have a lot of different variations of typically stay the same, but the utility discs do fluctuate a little bit. I am an amateur, and if I see a pretty disc, I like to throw a pretty disc. So sometimes those do go in and out of the bag, but for the most part, I have found that this is my most consistent run of bag. So if you guys want to see these discs in action, make sure to like and subscribe so you're notified for future videos. And I'll see you in the next one.